The colony on Vera 9 had always been quiet, almost too quiet for its own good. For months, Captain Elias Marlowe had watched from the edge of the mining settlement, knowing that the day the Zerithians arrived would come. He had waited, studied, and prepared. Every detail about the alien fleet, their patrols, their weapons, even their behavior in the field, he had memorized. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries. Today, Elias intended to prove why that was a mistake. The sky above the dusty plains shimmered with unnatural light as the alien warship descended. Its hull reflected the harsh sunlight, creating a glaring mirror that hid the details of its monstrous form. Workers paused in their tasks, their chatter dying in the sudden shadow that fell over the colony. Children pressed their faces against small portholes in the safety of their homes, unable to comprehend what it meant to have such beings land on their planet. From the ship the Zerithians emerged. They moved with grace, their tall, angular bodies almost fluid in motion, yet precise and deliberate. Weapons hung at their sides, silent but threatening. The leader stepped forward, a tall, alien woman, her presence commanding the attention of every human in sight. Her skin glimmered faintly, as if dusted with starlight, and her eyes, dark and calculating, scanned the settlement as if measuring every soul. She was Virilia, a name humans had whispered in fear when her fleet was mentioned. "Kneel, human," she said, her voice calm but unmistakably commanding. Elias felt the vibration of her tone, a frequency designed to compel obedience. Every muscle in the humans around him stiffened. "Kneel," she said, "obey or face destruction." Elias did not move, not an inch. He had waited for this moment, and his calm defiance unnerved the soldiers behind her. He had no illusion that this would be easy, no hope that fear alone could shield him. Yet he knew the advantage was his, not brute strength, not alien technology, but something the Zerithians had not accounted for: human ingenuity. Virilia's eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, her boots silent on the metal decking that had been deployed across the colony. Elias could see her measure him, the subtle shift in her stance, the slight tightening around her shoulders that suggested irritation. She was confident, deadly confident in the supremacy of her species. She did not know that humans had been studying them just as diligently, learning the weak points in their systems, the predictable patterns in their command structure. Elias' fingers brushed the edge of the small device hidden under his sleeve. A simple piece of technology to any alien, but it had been modified, enhanced with human unpredictability in mind. One press, one subtle motion, and the alien ship's local systems would falter. He had tested it in secret, and he had no doubts. Behind him, the colony workers whispered among themselves, fear giving way to awe. They had heard tales of human courage, of human stubbornness, but seeing it in action was different. Elias was not just resisting, he was ready. He had become a symbol of what humanity could do when it refused to kneel. Virilia stopped a mere 2 meters away. Her weapon, sleek and glowing faintly with alien energy, was leveled at him. She did not fire, not yet. She did not need to. The authority in her posture, in her voice, in the expectation of obedience, was enough to make most humans comply. Most humans, but not Elias. "You defy me," she said, almost a statement of disbelief. "You know this will be your end." Elias met her gaze, his expression calm. "I have been waiting for this day," he replied. There was no fear in his voice, no hesitation. Virilia tilted her head, curious. She had not expected a response like that. She had expected submission, perhaps a trembling apology or a desperate plea for mercy. Humans, she had assumed, were primitive, predictable, and easily broken. She had underestimated them, and that mistake could be costly. Elias pressed the small button on his hidden device. Instantly, the lights around the landing zone flickered. The hum of the alien ship system stuttered. Virilia's weapon emitted a low warning tone as her energy sensors failed for a fraction of a second. It was enough. "Now!" Elias shouted, his voice carrying across the settlement. Workers moved swiftly, pulling makeshift barriers into place, activating emergency systems, and setting off traps designed to disable alien machinery. The aliens reacted, but too late. Their confidence had been shattered by the first hint of disruption. Viralia's eyes flared. She barked orders in a language harsh and melodic, but her troops hesitated. They were trained for obedience, but the rules of their hierarchy were failing them. The signals they relied on, the chains of command they trusted, were being disrupted. Humans, clever and chaotic, had exploited every weakness. Elias moved with deliberate calm, advancing toward her despite the energy weapons pointed at him. Every step was measured, every movement part of a pattern he had rehearsed. The human mind, he knew, was capable of adaptability that even the most advanced alien species struggled to predict, and today it would prove its value. Viralia raised her weapon, energy crackling along its surface. "Stop this," she commanded. "Submit or die." "Not today," Elias said. With that, he triggered the secondary mechanism in his device. A pulse shot out, small but precise, targeting the control matrix of the alien landing ship. Systems flickered, lights dimmed, and the ship shuddered as if in pain. The Zarithian soldiers stumbled, their coordination failing. The human workers cheered silently, a wave of hope and courage sweeping through the colony. Fear had been replaced with determination. They followed Elias, not out of command, but because they believed in what he represented. Viralia's face twisted in shock and anger. She had underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, to improvise, to turn even their most primitive surroundings into weapons. She realized now that brute strength alone would not secure victory. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and when cornered, dangerous. Elias approached her, each step deliberate. "You expect fear to control me," he said, "but we are not what you think." Behind him, the colony's defense systems came alive. Automated turrets, improvised by human engineers, targeted alien drones with surprising accuracy. Electromagnetic pulses disabled surveillance devices, leaving the aliens blind in critical areas. Every human present had a role, every action calculated to exploit the aliens' assumptions. Viralia tried to regain control, issuing commands faster, more forcefully, but the network of human resistance was too well coordinated. Her soldiers faltered, unsure of whom to obey, unsure of how to react. Human unpredictability had become their advantage. Elias stopped mere meters from her. He could see the doubt in her eyes, the first crack in the armor of confidence she had always worn. He could see her calculating, trying to understand, trying to anticipate. But she could not. She had been trained to expect fear, obedience, and panic. What she found instead was calm, strategy, and determination. The human workers began to advance, armed with tools converted into weapons, with technology they had repurposed, with courage that no alien weapon could measure. The settlement was no longer a target. It was a fortress, and Elias was the architect of its defense. Viralia took a step back, reassessing. Her weapon remained raised, but the confidence was gone. The humans, small and fragile as they appeared, had seized the advantage through their cleverness and resilience. One human, she realized, was enough to change the tide. Elias had waited for this, and he had been ready. "Stand down," Elias said to her, his voice carrying authority without threat. "Leave this place or face the consequences of your underestimation." Viralia's eyes narrowed. She had faced many species, many rebellions, many skirmishes, but none had been like this. None had combined intellect, courage, and adaptability in such a seamless way. She realized that the humans of this colony were more than they seemed, and that this single man had orchestrated a defense no one had thought possible. The wind swept across the plains, stirring dust and debris as if the planet itself acknowledged the shift. The standoff continued, tense and silent, the outcome uncertain. But one thing was clear: Elias was not afraid. The humans had not yet revealed their full potential, and the aliens had begun to understand that underestimation was dangerous. Behind him, the colonists watched. Their fear had been replaced with a newfound sense of hope. They had followed Elias, not just out of duty, but because he had reminded them of what humans could do when they refused to kneel. Today, the legend of human resilience was being written, and every action, every choice, every moment of courage contributed to it. Viralia's hand hovered over her weapon, hesitation flickering across her features. Elias saw it, and he knew the time for the next move was approaching. He had set the stage, and the first act had ended with the humans holding the advantage. The second act, he knew, would reveal just how far human ingenuity could go when pushed to its limits. The alien leader's eyes burned with calculation, but the humans were ready. They had waited, they had prepared, and they would not kneel. Elias took a final step forward, standing tall amidst the chaos, knowing that the Zerithians had underestimated the one thing that made humanity formidable: the refusal to accept defeat and the courage to seize opportunity when it came. The settlement buzzed with quiet energy, anticipation building. The standoff had begun, and Elias Marlowe was ready to show that humans were never to be underestimated. The first pulse of resistance had been delivered, and the human story on Vera 9 was just beginning. The colony was alive with tension and purpose. After Elias Marlowe's daring stand against the Zerithians, the humans no longer acted like prey. They moved like predators, precise and deliberate, using the tools and terrain around them to gain every advantage. The alien leader, Viralia, had retreated slightly, reassessing her approach, but Elias knew she was still dangerous. Her mind was sharp, calculating, and she would not allow pride to let her fail. Elias turned to the human workers around him. "Everyone, follow the plan. Stay calm, stay coordinated. We only get one chance to make this count." His voice carried authority without fear. The colonists nodded, their fear replaced with determination. Today, they would show the aliens that humans were not to be underestimated. The first wave of alien soldiers began to move forward, attempting to regain control. Their weapons glowed with lethal energy, and their movements were faster and more precise than any human could achieve naturally. But Elias had prepared for this. Mines disguised as ordinary rocks, automated traps rigged from mining equipment, and electromagnetic pulses designed to disable their sensors made every step forward dangerous. Viralia watched from a distance, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the situation. Elias had turned the environment into a weapon. Every slope, every piece of machinery, every human hiding behind cover was a calculated threat. Her soldiers hesitated, unsure of the best approach. Their confidence in technology alone was faltering against a species that used cunning and adaptability as their greatest weapon. "Divide and conquer," she commanded, her voice carrying through a translator device. The words were crisp, authoritative, but the hesitation in the soldiers' movements betrayed their uncertainty. They were trained to follow orders, but Elias had disrupted the system they depended on. The chain of command was fractured, leaving the aliens exposed. Elias signaled to a group of workers hiding near the mining tunnels. They had been ready for this moment, tools transformed into makeshift EMP devices, small but powerful enough to disable alien drones in a radius. He pressed his hand against the wall, triggering the first pulse. Lights flickered and drones dropped from the sky, sparks flying as circuits overloaded. The human workers cheered silently, moving quickly to take control of the disabled drones. Every human action was synchronized, planned, and effective. They were not just defending themselves. They were taking the fight to the aliens in a way they could not predict. Viralia's face twisted in frustration. She had underestimated these humans, and now she realized the depth of her mistake. Her soldiers advanced with caution, but every step was met with resistance. Mines exploded in carefully chosen locations, sending shockwaves that knocked alien troops off balance. Automated turrets, designed from repurposed mining equipment, fired with precision, targeting weak points in the alien armor. Elias moved with a calm confidence. Every human around him was part of a strategy he had devised. He directed the workers with gestures and whispers, ensuring that every trap, every maneuver, and every strike worked in harmony. The humans had become a single, coordinated unit, capable of turning even ordinary tools into deadly weapons. Virilia stepped forward, energy weapon in hand, and aimed directly at Elias. Her movements were fluid, practiced, and fast, but Elias anticipated her approach. He ducked behind a makeshift barricade, allowing the first blast to pass harmlessly overhead. The barricade absorbed the energy, scattering sparks across the metal floor. "You are clever, human," she said, her voice both admiration and threat. "But cleverness will not save you forever." Elias peered over the barricade. "It's not just cleverness," he said. "It's preparation, and we are ready for you." He pressed another button on his device, releasing a secondary pulse that disabled more of the alien drones hovering above the settlement. Sparks and smoke filled the air as the humans advanced, using the chaos to their advantage. The alien soldiers tried to regroup, but the humans anticipated every move. They had learned the patterns, the predictable strategies that the aliens relied upon. Elias had studied these tactics for months, and now every human under his direction executed them with precision. What seemed like chaos to the aliens was actually a carefully orchestrated counterattack. Virilia's expression hardened. She could feel the tide turning, the advantage slipping through her fingers. She had encountered strong opponents before, but humans were different. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. One man, standing at the center of the resistance, had orchestrated a defense that no alien technology could easily overcome. Elias moved forward, his eyes locked on Virilia. "You underestimated us," he said, his voice steady. "And that is your mistake." Virilia raised her weapon, energy crackling along its surface, but Elias was already in motion. He dodged and weaved through the chaos, using the environment as cover. Every step was calculated, every movement designed to exploit weaknesses in her formation. The humans followed, using every advantage to disable alien systems and neutralize threats. The battle intensified. Alien drones descended from the skies, only to be met by electromagnetic pulses and improvised explosives. Soldiers advanced through the streets, but every corner, every building, every piece of equipment had been turned into a weapon by the humans. Virilia realized that brute force alone would not win this fight. Strategy, adaptability, and sheer human resilience were proving more effective than her advanced technology. Elias approached her once more, moving through the battlefield with confidence. "This colony is not yours," he said. "You have been warned." Virilia's eyes blazed with fury. She had faced many enemies, but none had resisted so effectively. Humans were supposed to be primitive, slow, and weak. She had assumed fear would control them, obedience would save her troops, and chaos would give her victory. But she had miscalculated. The humans continued to advance, every action precise, every move deliberate. They turned ordinary objects into weapons, repurposed alien technology against its owners, and used the terrain to their advantage. The aliens were strong, but they were predictable, and humans were anything but predictable. Virilia realized she had no choice. Her soldiers were faltering, systems were failing, and every attempt to regain control was met with resistance. She had underestimated human creativity and courage, and now she faced a force she could not easily defeat. Elias paused in front of her, standing tall amidst the chaos. His eyes met hers, unwavering and confident. "Leave now," he said, "or face the consequences of underestimating humans." Virilia hesitated, weighing her options. She could continue the attack, risking more losses, or retreat and preserve what remained of her forces. Her pride battled with logic, but she knew the humans had gained the upper hand. She could not afford to lose her entire squad to this unpredictable species. With a final, measured glance, Virilia lowered her weapon slightly. "This is not over, human," she said, "but you have earned temporary victory." Elias nodded, knowing that this victory was significant. Humans had proven their worth, their ingenuity, and their courage. They had defended their home against an advanced alien force and had turned the tables using their intelligence and adaptability. The humans cheered quietly, their victory not just physical but symbolic. They had refused to kneel, had refused to surrender, and had demonstrated that humanity could overcome even the most advanced adversaries through cleverness, coordination, and courage. Virilia's forces began to retreat, moving with caution and respect. She knew that underestimating humans in the future would be a mistake she could not afford to repeat. Elias watched them leave, a sense of triumph and relief washing over him. The humans had survived, and more than that, they had shown their true strength. The colony was battered but intact. Damage was significant but repairable. More importantly, the spirit of the humans was unbroken. Elias moved among the workers, ensuring that everyone was safe, checking for injuries and coordinating the cleanup. Their unity, their coordination, and their bravery had turned the tide. As the last alien ship disappeared into the sky, Elias reflected on the battle. They had faced fear, had faced overwhelming odds, and had emerged victorious. Humanity had once again proven that it was not just survival instincts or technology that mattered, but ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to submit. The colonists gathered around Elias, their eyes full of gratitude and awe. He had been their leader, their strategist, and their symbol of hope. Today, they had witnessed the power of human resilience, and the lesson would resonate across the stars. Humans were not weak, humans were not primitive, and humans would never be underestimated again. Virilia, aboard her ship, stared down at the retreating humans. She had encountered many species, many worlds, but this small group had shown her something remarkable. Intelligence, courage, and adaptability, qualities she had not expected in humans. She realized that this species, seemingly fragile and disorganized, possessed a power that could not be measured by weapons alone. Elias stood atop a ridge overlooking the colony, watching the horizon. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the landscape. Dust swirled in the wind, carrying with it the scent of victory, determination, and hope. Humanity had survived the attack, and more than that, they had shown that even against superior forces, they could rise, adapt, and triumph. The standoff was over, but the story was only beginning. Humans had proven their worth, and the galaxy would have to take notice. Elias Marlowe had shown that preparation, courage, and intelligence could turn the tide of any battle. He had demonstrated that humans were a force to be reckoned with, and that their refusal to kneel would become a legend across the stars. The colony began the work of rebuilding, each human contributing, each effort a testament to their ingenuity and resilience. They repaired damaged structures, repurposed alien technology, and fortified their defenses. Their victory was not just a moment in time, it was a foundation for the future. Elias walked through the settlement, speaking with workers, encouraging children, and observing the repairs. Every person he passed carried the fire of determination, the belief that humans could survive, thrive, and resist oppression. He knew that this was just the beginning. The Zorithians would return, other threats would emerge, but humanity had proven that it could face them with intelligence, courage, and unity. As night fell over Vera 9, the stars glimmered above like distant witnesses to human resilience. Elias stood silently, reflecting on the day's events. He had waited, he had prepared, and he had led. The humans had fought, and they had won. And in that victory lay a message for the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated, and the spirit of humanity could not be broken. The humans of Vera 9 had refused to kneel, and in doing so, they had carved a place for themselves among the stars. The battle was won, but the legacy of courage, ingenuity, and resilience would endure, inspiring humans everywhere to stand tall, fight smart, and never surrender.